This presentation is going to show you how we can increase voter turnout for Republicans in the upcoming general election. As Governor Howard Dean points out, it is state by state, precinct by precinct, door by door, and vote by vote. That is how you win elections. What really works? Neighborhood, door-to-door canvassing. As a party, where have we spent our effort? On the low end of the scale.
Now, this is one of the books I read, Get Out the Vote. It's written by two Yale professors who statistically analyzed what really works in the game of politics. And they recognize in the end of the day, statistically, campaign managers don't read this book, by the way, okay, because they violate the statistical scientific basis for how to win elections. Interesting enough. And I'll have more to say about that why, okay? Again, it's like, why wouldn't they play by what really works, okay? Money in lobbying cannot buy what neighborhood and precinct organizing can do. That's the conclusion. You know, if you look at context per vote, this is scientific statistical analysis, okay? I mean, it's hard to do. These guys, these Yale professors were part of campaigns. They separated groups and made sure the demographics were all correct, etc. I mean, a very scientific approach. And context per vote. One knock on the door, going to your neighbor's door and talking with that person and trying to find out who's like-minded and maybe doing a little education, and I'll say more about that as well, is the same, has the same effect as 28 mailers to that same household and 33 phone calls to that same household. Now, if you wanted to spend your time effectively and efficiently to get people out to vote, where would you spend your time? You'd do it going door to door, wouldn't you? Not making phone calls or sending mailers. So this is very powerful. Now we'll start zeroing in, okay, how do I focus my energies? Now that I understand, okay, I think I can deal with the numbers he's asking me to deal with in my very own neighborhood, okay? How do I find the people or target people? I won't even ask you to go to every door. I'm going to ask you to go only to people who are likely to be like-minded, okay? So I'm stacking a deck for you. Can I make it real easy? Because I don't want you to get in a debate, in a heavy discussion, bother people who don't want to be bothered. I want you to go to people who are likely to be like-minded and make sure they go out and vote. That's it. Now, how do I find people who are likely to be like-minded? Now, you get this off the voter record, okay? You can find out which party people are, people are stunned at what's available in the public domain about voting, okay? But a voter record that's available to anyone from the boards of election will tell you what party you're registered with and when you voted. It doesn't say how you voted once you entered the polling place, but it says what party you're registered with. So I can pretty much guess how you vote if you're a registered Democrat or Republican, and I can also see how frequently you vote, okay? Primaries, general elections, regular basis, you know, irregular. You don't focus on always vote Democrats. You don't focus on people who never vote. They might be registered, but they never bother to go and vote. Okay, so that's their gig. Why bother with Republicans who always go and vote? You pretty much have a sense of how they're going to vote, okay? Particularly in general elections. Certainly in primaries, it's a little different game, okay? But I'm primarily focusing on general election. So who you focus on is really, it's a third of the total, but this really depends on the makeup of your precinct, your neighborhood, okay? If it's skewed Democrat, skewed Republican, skewed independent. So it's not really a third, just depends, okay? But it's as easy as that. And you get all this information, like I said, off the voter records. This is scrambled information from one of the, actually Warren's County, Mount Vernon in central Ohio, but it's scrambled to protect the privacy of the citizens. But you know, you can read people's names, when they were born, where they live, their city. And then here, I only included a few columns, but they have columns infinitum for all of the elections and if you went and vote. And they tell you, is it an R or a D? And if there's nothing there, you're an independent. So I can find out from a publicly available voter record for my precinct everything I need to know to go out and seek out likely like-minded voters in my neighborhood, okay?
After you identify your targeted like-minded neighbors from the voter data, you should contact these people the following number of times. Before the election, when you are determining whether they are like-minded and trying to build a relationship with them, contact the conservative voters once, liberal conservatives twice, and the undecided 3 times. During the get out the vote period, contact the conservatives 3 times, the mid-conservatives, liberal conservatives 2 times, and the undecided voters 1 time.
And what you want to do is basically have 3 or 4 contacts with the identified like-minded voters in your neighborhood. And the way you do that is you go door to door once. You can make phone calls the second time. You can go door to door again or make phone calls. However you want to mix it up, okay? But keep it personal, on a personal level, because these are your neighbors. And the reason there are 3 or 4 contacts is because you want to contact them once with absentee voting. You want to make sure they're aware. Like absentee voting in Ohio, no, actually early voting is starting October 5th, right? I mean, this is crazy. October 5th, early voting. You can go to the boards of election in Ohio and you can vote for this November's election. It's really crazy. But so you want to catch them when they're eligible to send in absentee ballots, okay? Actually, you can find out from a board of election. If you go there and say, I want to know everyone who takes out an absentee ballot, they will email you on a daily basis who's done that. So you can call those people right away and say, look, you can look at if they're one of the people on your like-minded voter list, you can call them and say, remember to vote in a principled way and make sure you understand which candidates are most closely aligned with the principles that you are aligned with and we are aligned with, okay? So that's your first point of contact. The second point of contact is when early voting starts. You want to get the people on your list. Like in my precinct, in 2010, I had 280 people. I had 6 volunteers. So, there were 7 of us, 7 couples. So it's 40 people each, 40 households each that we were responsible for. And you want to get the group you're responsible for, those 40 households, to do absentee balloting. If they didn't do that, go to early voting. Go to the Board of Election. Take advantage of this. Then you can check them off, okay? Then come election day, you call them again if they haven't done the first 2, and you say, hey, now is election time. I need you to go there. Do you need transportation? Do you need, what do you need to be able to go and vote? Some organizations even provide babysitting, whatever, just to make sure those people are able to go and vote, okay? Every vote counts. And then there's this flushing the list, okay? Every voting location has to post who's voted at certain times in the day. And you can go there and look at those lists and check them off. So I've got my 200, my wife and I went there. We had our list of 280 people, and we checked them off. Okay, they all voted. And then we got back to our volunteers and said, okay, here are the people who haven't yet voted, who you're responsible for. Call them, make sure they go out and vote after work. So that's 4 points of contact, okay? So again, after all of that, all you have to do in your neighborhood is identify the like-minded voters, and you use a stacked deck by using the voter records to create a walking list of the likely people who are likely to be like-minded. Very easy.
The committee has spent several meetings working on the best tools to make being a precinct captain and a block worker easier. As we have shown, of all voters, you will only be asked to approach about 30% of the people in your neighborhood. We spent time on these tools. We will be working with precinct captains to identify and map the block workers' areas. This is an example of Precinct 22 broken into areas. This is an assessor map showing the overall area of Precinct 22. The highlighted yellow area is Block Worker Area A. This is the area assigned to that person. Here we have a blow-up of Area A. As you can see, we have highlighted the addresses of the three types of voters. Always votes swing voters, sometimes votes swing voters, and sometimes votes Republicans. This makes it easy for the block worker to identify where the houses are that he needs to work. This is a sample of a report extracted from the new Access database we are working on. This data is obtained from the registrar. From this, we identify the three types of voters that we need to work. We make our 3 or 4 contacts and then make sure they get to the polls. From the data, we will extract and preprint 3x5 cards for the block workers to use as they make their way around their neighborhood. As you can see from the sample, we do not have a telephone number for this prospect. As a neighbor, we would ask for her telephone number to make our get out the vote possible. Now that you have seen how easy it is going to be a precinct captain or block worker, we are passing around sign-up sheets for you to volunteer. Nothing gets done in any volunteer organization without volunteers. We will now answer any questions you might have.